Alright guys, because JP's anniversary is right around the corner, it should be right after the most recent tower event goes down, a lot of people are speculating on what we're going to be getting for the anniversary. And I've already done my speculation on, who it might be, but I got to thinking, alright, I'm getting a lot of comments about like Quick not being very good, and people in my chat are always talking about, hey, why is Quick not respected so much? And so I'm going to kind of put it into perspective in this video where we talk about what the actual servant's kit might look like, or what it might need to do to kind of take something like Quick and put it back up there where Arts and Buster are. Because the sad truth of it is, we've kind of done a full cycle. When FGO first started, Quick was not very good. Ever since they put out 2030, it pretty much just invalidated every Quick servant that ever came out. Then like Arts and Buster were kind of competing. Then we got Merlin, and then Merlin kind of put Buster on top. Then we got Skadi, and she put Quick on top. And then we have Castoria, and then it's kind of all downhill from there for Quick servants, right? Now, I don't think the actual issue with Quick is, say, their actual units, right? I think the units you have in Quick are very, very strong. Think of your Summer Okita Altars, or your Rikyus, or even Charlemagne, or even if you want to use the new support we got last summer, your Ruler Skadis, they can even get the job done. I don't think these are the problems. I don't think it's that like, oh, Rikyu is infinitely worse than, say, Summer Ibuki, right? I think the quality of the servants are relatively in the same ballpark. I don't think there's one servant that is like just so dominantly good when it comes to farming and stuff that they just kick everybody else out. Even as good as I think, say, Kukulkan or Arkui can actually be when they're taken to like their best, I think they can be very, very strong. But I don't think because they exist, you can't be like, well, I'm never using Space Ishtar, Summer Kama, or, Summer Ibuki ever again, right? I think they're all still very valid. Where I think the problem comes from is the actual setups that are required to make Quick work. Now, if you are not, aware of what's going on JP, basically all three of the metas technically coexist. I had to pause for a second to be like, well, technically they all are kind of in the same ballpark, but Quick is just, it just doesn't feel as good. And let me explain why. So you have this new Ruler Skadi that came out, and she's absolutely nuts, right? Because she gives you more Quick than normal Skadi does, right? She gives you a total of 65% to your looper, and she gives you an attack buff, which is crazy because instead of this Skadi only having the defense down that you can only use on one wave, you can carry this attack buff through all the waves, and it double buffs you, right? And she also still gives you the 50% battery over here. So it's basically just like an upgraded version of the caster Skadi that can also be your looper. She came out and people kind of, I would say, lowballed her a little bit on how good she actually was, but she is rather insane. She is quite the good unit, and in fact what she allows Quick to do is something called like the triple Skadi system. You get to bring two of these, and then if you need extra buffs, you can plug suit in the original Skadi. That sounds crazy, I'm sure, because then it's like I get all of these improved buffs, plus I get to use the defense down on the last node. If my unit is not as good of a looper, well, I got an extra 50% battery waiting for them. And then I also get a massive damage steroid because I'm going to be getting another 50% quick buff whenever this Skadi plugs suit in. That sounds really good, but the problem is that is two limited servants you have to invest in. And unfortunately, if you want to invest in two limited servants, the Buster meta does that a lot better because instead you can invest in Koyanskaya of the Light and Oberon over here. And I'm sorry, they're not going to beat Buster when it comes to damage, especially with this guy in their back corner. There's also the case that, say, Koyanskaya gives pretty solid damage mods as well, so even if the Quick Servant would out-damage the Buster Servant, as soon as you find a human or man attribute person, which are not bad damage mods, right? Like, these are fairly common for most events. You will probably find at least one node where you can make use of this, right? And so that's also going to give them a nice little competitive edge because while Ruler Skyhawk over here has the special damage against lawful dudes, she doesn't give that to people, right? So like it makes her a pretty decent farmer, but it doesn't really benefit anybody else. And then unfortunately, you also have Castoria over here who's just like, oh, you guys are investing in two limited servants? No, my setups just require one of me and basically any Arts AoE servant. I say basically any of them, and I know people are going to be like, what about Nero? It's like, okay, obviously they got to have like a few hits or something, but funny enough, when Castoria hit NA, we did do some farming setups with Nero, the Saber AoE one. It wasn't very pretty, and it's very hard to do, but Castoria is just that good that you can, even in the ugliest setup you've ever seen that doesn't look very pretty, you can still make it work, right? And there's also the fact that Castoria, her setups absolutely love Black Grail. And why that's a major deal is that Oberon also loves Black Grail, right? Because Castoria, between the two of them, they give you 100%, which is the same thing you could say that Skahog does over here. She gives you 50%, right? That's got to be the same thing. Well, no, art servants loot better. So most of the time, they're just going to loop 100% of their NP. And then when you get to the final node, Oberon will gas up your Black Grail that you're using, because this over here does interact with Black Grail, and it makes it insane. And brings it to ridiculous heights. And so even they didn't get left behind when Oberon came out. Like, everybody was like, oh, no, Buster's the best thing you can be doing. And I'm like, well, hold on. Arts is not very far behind, if not just still neck and neck with him, because there are certain Buster servants that can use Black Grail, like, say, Melusine or Arcoid, but not all of them can do it. Whereas pretty much all of the main arts farmers can use Black Grail, right? Most of them are going to be fine. Your Summer Kamas, your Musashis are going to be fine. Your Ibukis are going to be fine. You know, all of your Space Ishtars, all of those guys are going to be fine when it comes to farming. And so what I think Quick needs is they quite literally need something where they just take Castoria's kit and they just slap Quick stuff all over it. And I think that's literally what they've got to do. But they've kind of got to make it a bit better. Because remember, while 30% NP gain from both Castorias giving you a total of 60% is enough for your art servants, right? Because they already naturally refund so much of their NP just because how good the arts card is. Quick servants aren't quite as good as doing that, right? They need a lot of help. That's why when the original caster Skadi came out, it was a big deal. It's like, whoa, she's giving us so much Quick, and that's massively gassing up the NP gain of the Quick card, and that's allowing us to finally loop. I literally think they need to get themselves an insane top tier support. Unfortunately, with all of the servants that I was kind of speculating on in my video a couple of weeks ago, that like these are all servants that will probably come out, or probably come out for the anniversary, and these are the most likely people. It doesn't look like really any of them would be Quick support. Maybe if they did like Solomon, maybe, or they just took some random person out of left field and threw them in, maybe that would work. But one of the most popular picks for anniversary is Olga. Like, that is what most people are expecting. And while I would hope that they would hold off on doing Olga until later, I can't deny that that does seem like a very solid choice for anniversary. And unfortunately, we already have most of her kit, unless they decide to change it, which I don't know if they would, because they didn't really change anything about Saber Medusa's kit when we saw her in the Paper Moon story event, right? Like, her kit and her models, everything was basically ready to go, and then they shipped her out the exact same way that we saw her, right? We basically got to play with her early before she came out for the next event. So I don't really think they're going to change much of Olga's kit, unless they're maybe going to argue that that's like Olga Marie, that's like the beast quote-unquote version. We still don't know what she is, so like, don't worry if you're like, I don't want to be spoiled. We have no idea what's going on with Olga, because she has a big old question mark on her class thing, so who knows what it's actually going to be at the very end. We'll find out that in, I'm sure, 2 years or something. But unless they fundamentally just changed her from the ground up, I don't think she's going to be the Quick support. And even then, I'm not even sure if someone that's literally Castoria, but better, but just has like Quick buffs, I don't even know if that's enough to save Quick. Like, even if these are like, say, 60% buffs on like their Quick buff over here, and you give them, I don't know, a generic damage mod that's like Earth, Man, like Lawful, something like that. Even if you do all that, I don't know if it works. Like, maybe they have to get up to like 50% NP gain per, like, that seems really ridiculous. Because I feel like at the end of the day, you might just start using that servant with other people. I don't know, depending on how generic their buffs were. Especially because, aside from the arts buff over here, Castoria's buffs are pretty generic. It's why she works in like a lot of stall teams and such. But I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, because this is something that I was thinking about as anniversary's coming out, as I'm like, it's probably going to be some big DPS servant that does a lot of damage, but I don't think we really need any more of those. We're pretty good on those right now. I think we need a new support, and the type that is absolutely begging for one is Quick over here. But I just don't, I don't know if it's like a new mechanic they got to give them, or they can crit on their NPs or something ridiculous like that. I don't know what they got to do to make it to where Quick specifically gets to reap all the benefits. Like maybe only Quick NPs can crit or something crazy along those lines, because they need something quite nuts to kind of like help them out. But I feel like if we do the Quick NP crits, don't you just feel like eventually they would turn around and give that to Buster as well? Because Buster also loves to do big Buster crits. When you think of Buster crits, or just crits in general, you probably think of most Buster servants. Like the first servant that came to your mind was probably Jolter, right? Like that's the first one that came to my mind, because it's just, I don't know, she's so synonymous with just doing big old crits. So I don't know. I'm very curious to see what you guys think in the comments down below, because as Anniversary is getting closer and closer, I am just really excited to see what we're actually going to get. And again, I think it's probably going to be some DPS servant. Hopefully it's like a really insane single target, because we don't really get too many single targets nowadays. But I get most of the game is farming, so AoEs are technically better. What if it was like a crazy counter unit? That'd be kind of nice if they just brought back the Bazette thing. But I don't know. Let me know all your thoughts and theories in the comments down below, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace late, guys.